Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have something that is extremely exciting because, as you can see, the Funville Dinos Unleashed line is back. That's right, the last time I had some of these figures on my channel was a year ago, and they had just begun hitting Dollar Generals all throughout the United States. I'm not entirely sure what other stores had them, but I know Dollar General had them because that's where I found mine. And we now have brand new paint variants out for these figures. I went over most of them because actually when they had released prior, there were two different paint variants of each dinosaur. And there was still a paint variant of the Spino and T-Rex I never got a hold of. But I now have 4 brand new versions of these dinosaurs. 1 new paint variant of each of the species that were released prior. So I figured why not go ahead and begin reviewing them. And we'll do this, of course, 2 at a time because we have already reviewed the sculpts and everything technically in the past. It doesn't look like anything's different as far as that goes. So since they are just repaints, I figured we might as well have, a double dose of dino in each video. This time we're going to take a look at the Velociraptor and Triceratops, because why not? You can see the box art is pretty similar to what we had going on last time. Really nicely done overall. We've got like this little cracked rock sort of area with the species name in it, and of course the Dinos Unleashed logo right there. And then a really neat little backdrop back behind the figure. You can see like a T-Rex poking out. There's like a pterosaur up there. Looks like some species of maybe even a gallimimus or something up there in the top right hand corner. Definitely a really neat little backdrop that they have going on for the figures. And of course you can already see what our new paint variants look like for them. And then if we turn the boxes around here, you can see some information on the back of the box that kind of shows off the other dinosaurs in the line, but these are actually the older paint variants. These are not the current paint variants, so I guess you'll have to be in suspense until I bring in the other 2 paint variants for the Spino and Rex, because these are actually the older ones. And these are actually, I believe, the older 2 that I did not get a hold of, potentially, because I think the Spino I had was blue, the Rex I had was like a reddish tone. So maybe those are the 2 that I didn't get a hold of previously. But again, I am just so excited to see this line back because I was a big fan of their figures the first time around. So let's pop these out of the box and check them out. So here is the Triceratops now in all its glory out of the packaging in a really nice bluish color scheme. And then here is the Velociraptor, which I'll actually turn this one the opposite way as well because it was facing out that way in the packaging. And you can see that the Raptor sports a really nice greenish color scheme. And I did want to get these guys back out, the older ones, to bring in with the newer ones, but unfortunately, in my massive collection of dinosaurs here, I'm not quite sure where I have most of them. I do know where the Raptors are. I don't know where I have the Triceratops, T-Rex, or Spino because there's just so much stuff here. It's hard to remember where I put things, but I will bring at least the Raptors in here at the end to kind of show off the differences between the new version and the old versions. But you can, of course, check out the playlist that I have here on my channel for the Funville line, as I have reviews of all of the older ones as well as some other stuff that they had released previously. But you can see, again, they definitely look really, really cool, so let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look and check them out from there. So beginning with the Raptor, you can see the Raptor is really nice. Again, sculpt-wise, the Raptor looks very cool. I'm not really going to go over the sculpts again like I did previously because we really don't need to. Because again, if you want to see a more detailed look at the sculpts of these figures, I highly recommend checking out the reviews of the figures when they were first launched, again with the original paint variants. But we're going to basically go over what is different with these compared to the older ones, and that would be the coloration. So you can see we've got a really nice greenish color scheme for the large majority of this figure. You can see again it's a green all over. It seems like almost a slightly different shade of green in the rubbery kind of areas because the legs are sort of flexible. It's a little bit of like a hard, stiff rubber, whereas the body's more of a hard plastic. So you can almost see a little bit of a difference in the tone of color from the plastic to the rubbery areas, and I think it's nice, helps to give it kind of just a little extra color variation. But you can see on top of the greenish color scheme, we've got a darker tone there that kind of circles around the eye. Not really circles, but just sort of, outlines the eye because it's not exactly a circle. It's very nice and naturally placed, I think. We've also got a yellow eye as well as a nice black pupil there. And then, of course, we can see the inside of the mouth is very nicely painted. Actually, let's turn it, get a better look in there. You can see the inside of the mouth has a really nice pinkish tone in there. The teeth are painted pretty nicely and everything. Same deal for the inside of the mouth on the upper side. And there's also a nice gloss coat on the inside of the mouth, which is definitely a huge plus as far as the realism aspect for the figures go. But as you move down here into the neck, you start to see this bluish patterning pick up, and it's a very interesting design that they've created here, and you can see it's just pretty much everywhere as you move down. It doesn't look like it follows any specific kind of rhyme or reason. It's just a very interesting patterning as you move through the course of the figure, and then you lead out into the tail. Coloration does end before we reach this little area of like that rubber area of the tail. And that's really about it. It doesn't look like we've got painted nails or anything, and I don't think we had that the first time around either. But as far as the coloration goes, again, that's basically what you get for the newest version. I think it looks pretty cool, and I think the green and blue plays off of each other pretty nicely. So definitely a really neat paint variant of this raptor. And then the Triceratops is pretty cool because it almost follows the exact same color scheme, not, coloration, but the color patterning, I should say, as the older ones, because we have this very cool striping effect moving through the frill, which you can see looks really nice, of like a very dark blue compared to the lighter blue that we have for the face. And that's pretty much what we had going on with the older ones, like that same sort of patterning through the frill of the older Triceratops. And then as you move back here into the back of the body, you see that darker blue take over a large portion of the back, and then it just kind of stripes and designs and like sort of patterns here out into the spinal area, and like the hip area and stuff of the Triceratops, and then disappears. But that's the same sort of patterning that we had before as well. And I think that's actually pretty neat that they just kept like the same sort of pattern, but then changed the coloration, because it allows the Triceratops to sort of look like it's part of that same group. I wouldn't mind seeing some repaints from them in the future that differ, drastically from what we see on this one and the older ones, just to, switch it up a little bit. But I do like the fact that they've given it that same sort of patterning, kind of like, How Long Good and stuff, where they give you like the same patterning, sort of, but different color variants. That's kind of what we have going on here with the Triceratops. You can also see again that we've got the horns painted out, the beak painted out, as well as the spikes running around the frill. They're all painted with kind of like an off-white, sort of bordering on a yellow. You can see the tongue is sculpted out on the inside of the mouth, but it's the same coloration there as the beak. And the eye is painted with a red, and it has a nice little gloss coat to it, helping that shine. I think the eye looks pretty good as far as the coloration playing off of the rest of the body, like the red playing off of the blue, but I definitely would have liked to have seen a pupil in there. I don't see a pupil on the eye area of the Triceratops, and I think that's the same case. Yes, same case for this side as well. But, something that maybe they could, fix on the figure in the future would be to add a pupil. I think it definitely would have made it look a little bit better, but I'm actually a pretty big fan of the color scheme of this, because even though it is a bluish tone on a Triceratops, I think, if I kind of envision it in my head of a real living Triceratops, I think, this could potentially be a coloration I think that could look kind of natural for a Triceratops. The figures do also have articulation as well as an action feature, so straight away one thing you'll notice is the fact that we have head articulation, or neck I should say, articulation for the Triceratops, and that is part of the action feature. You also have leg articulation, which can go back pretty far and forward pretty far. The articulation is actually really nice on these Funville figures as far as like how far they go. Sometimes you'll get figures from companies where like the articulation is very limited. The leg will only move so far forward, so far back. That's not the case for the Funville versions. They seem to move pretty nicely. And then you also have articulation in the tail, but that's going to be, part of the action feature, because you move the tail to cause that striking action feature, which you can see there. The head is attacking again for the Triceratops and trying to kill off whatever is, nearby. And we also have a sound effect for the Triceratops, which I think maybe I'm just not getting the head up high enough to hear. So it is the same sound effect. It doesn't seem to differ or anything, but it is definitely a pretty cool sound effect for a Triceratops. Then we've also got the Velociraptor. Now we obviously saw that the jaw articulates. It's the upper jaw, and it can open pretty wide. We also have arm articulation, forward and back. Very, very nice and smooth. You can get that arm back pretty far. And then leg articulation, which I think one of these legs is the action feature. So this leg is not setting it off, which leads me to believe it's going to be this one. So that is 100% Jurassic Park raptor sounds, which is pretty cool because you can very clearly see that this raptor is based on a Jurassic Park style raptor. And we'll go ahead and do that again. That is the leg, because of the fact that we have an action feature associated with it, doesn't allow a whole lot of, articulation as far as the movement goes. And you can kind of see how the legs move together. I am able to move this leg individually a little bit, but for the most part, they sort of move together. And I think the action feature is kind of meant to be this. So you basically want to grab the tail and then kind of push the raptor into like an attack position. And that as well is definitely really, really cool. I don't think we need to do sizes or comparisons or anything for these figures because, again, we have already done that in the past. Also, here are the other variants of this Velociraptor that are out currently. As you can see, to my knowledge, we are up to 3 color variants of this raptor overall, which you can see, again, pretty darn nice colorations for them, and we're almost at the point of having a Velociraptor squad. And this one really reminds me of Velociraptor Echo a lot. I feel like that probably was the motivation for this one, because the coloration is just like very similar to Velociraptor Echo from Jurassic World. Then maybe these ones would be Delta and Charlie. We'll have to get a Velociraptor Blue soon, I guess. But you can see they all sort of have that same kind of patterning, just different tones of color, again making them look like they're all part of the same sort of raptor, flock, squad, group, whatever you want to call them. They should, all belong together because they have that same similar look, just different tones of color. So this brand new version of the Funville Velociraptor, the Dinos Unleashed Velociraptor, and Triceratops are really cool. I'm definitely excited to see them back, and I really hope to see, more from them in the future, especially when it comes to this specific line. I would really like to see them release more species because I think their sculpts are phenomenal and they make really fun toys overall. And you can see that again, even though we've already gone over the sculpts and everything in the past, you can see just looking at them, they look really good. Really nice, crisp, vibrant detail, very high quality as far as the sculpts go, especially the Triceratops. Like looking through that, you can just see so much variation to the scale, detail, and you can really see that, again, a lot of time was spent sculpting that out to make it look exceptional. And same deal for the raptor, not quite as much variation of skin texture because the skin texture is a little different looking compared to what you see on the Triceratops, but you can really see, again, a lot of time and effort was put into making that sculpt look quite nice, and they did a very good job if you ask me. On top of that, the new paint variants look nice. I think both of them look really good. The Raptor probably is one of my favorite versions of the Raptors that has released so far. I think the one that sort of looks like Echo is my favorite overall just because I love Velociraptor Echo, but this would probably be my second favorite. I just really like the tone of green that they've used on this one, so that's definitely a good thing. And the figures stand very nicely. There's no balancing issues with them at all, and they've got some pretty smooth articulation. The Triceratops here as well, again, sports a nice new snazzy color scheme, and I'm also quite the fan of the blues and everything used on the Triceratops. And of course, both figures have an action feature, which also makes them really cool. So overall, it is extremely awesome to see Funville Dinos Unleashed back at it again, and I'm very much so excited to see what else they produce moving into the future. So if you are interested in grabbing yourself some of these figures, make sure you start checking your Dollar Generals, because that's, the only place I know for sure that they are sold here in the United States. There may be other places, and if you know of them, please let me know so I can let people know in the videos, because so far I only know for sure of Dollar General. But make sure you check your Dollar Generals, absolutely pick some of these up, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.